Please help me welcome Chantel and Big Jim.
Thank you. Let's see how it goes. Hi, everybody. I'll probably get closer. My name is Chantel, and I'm from Big Jim Farms, and that's my dad, Jimmy, as he was saying. I'm a fourth generation farmer. We've been farming in the Rio Grande Valley for over 100 years, Corrales, Los Ranchos, Socorro, and we've been growing chili for at least 50 to 50 years.
100 years.
Hi. I'll talk a little bit louder. So we opened up a farm 8 years ago called Big Jim Farms. It's a U-pick farm in Los Ranchos. Our mission and the reason we opened it up is to offer the community an experience to pick their own chili and connect to the land and connect to our traditions, our heritage, our culture here in New Mexico.
We're taping. It'll be YouTube. You can go back and listen to it. Within the next couple of days, it'll be on YouTube. So if you're having a struggle or you have questions, you can go back. Excuse my interruption.
Yeah. So we're super proud to offer that to the community as a place to learn and just immerse yourself into farming and the traditions here. So the main crop that we grow is green chili. That's how we started. And we've expanded to like pumpkins, sunflowers, other small things like tomatoes, cucumbers that people can come pick. The main part of our farm is to do classes and workshops, and so we teach people how to do different things related to agriculture in New Mexico, like making their own ristra, red chili ristra, making tamales, field trips for students to learn how to farm and learn about farm animals. And so we're just really excited for people to come out there. Just seeing young students picking something, they're so joyful, and it's something so simple to us that's every day that they get so much joy and an appreciation for the land. There's not very many farm areas to grow anymore here in our area. Where we've grown, it's next to the river where we get our water from, and the soil is like a clay, very healthy and just perfect to grow green chili in and other crops. But as things get more developed, we're losing farmland every single year, just as us personally, but as a whole. So we are we open our farms so that people can have more of an appreciation and want to preserve it and protect it and find out ways how they can do that. I gave you guys this sheet with some resources. If you have land, there's like some websites to connect you to farmers that could farm it, or people like contractors that can prep the land for you. You could put bee houses on your property, even smaller, like 1 acre properties. You get tax incentives. And so it's just as our effort to just get the word out on how to protect the farmland. And we're open in July all the way till the end of the year. So you can come during this time. Every month has kind of a different crop. Our chili starts in August, the end of August, and then we'll have like our red chili come in, our pumpkins, and so on. But yeah, so my great-grandfather started farming in Corrales in the early 1900s with orchards, and we kind of just have expanded, and as every generation comes on, we kind of we want to continue on the traditions, and we kind of do it like in our own way. So we all kind of have like our side projects, but we're definitely really passionate about it. So we're gonna talk today about growing chili. I brought some chili plants that are for sale here, and we're going to talk about those as well. And I have some seeds that will go through some fertilizers, soil, and whatnot. So this is Jimmy. He's going to start, and then we can finish with question and answer and go over any questions you might have. I gave you guys a free red chili sample. The recipe's on there, and that is just to make like a red chili sauce. Yes. Do you want to start?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Did everyone get an apple? We brought apples to give away if anyone needs one. So Like I was telling the owner here, we've been farming in Corrales since 1910, so that's over 100 years of growing chili and different vegetables in Corrales. And we started with organic farming about 10 years ago, so more or less. So we're kind of going into more organic farming, and first things first, everything starts with soil. So you want to get some good soil to start with, good sandy loam, and if you're going to do a lot of plants, get it soil tested so you know what your soil needs or what it doesn't need. I recommend more of a sandy loam. The heavy clays are not good because you need good drainage for the chili plants. If not, you'll get wilt and a lot of problems. So when you irrigate or water, you want it to drain out pretty fast so you won't get the root rot. And good water, you can either use your well or from the river. I recommend the river water. It seems like it's better from the mountains, good, not as salty. These well waters sometimes are kind of salty, not good for the plants. And Chile, you know, this is the climate that's really popular in New Mexico. It likes the real dry climate, hot, dry, and then enough water to survive. It's a season. You plant any time from now to the middle of May with seeded, and the transplants usually in May, because we've had frost usually the end of May or early of May every year. It always is the hard frost, so you don't want to put any plants out till maybe the 10th of May. And like you said, well, if you lose them, then you come buy more. But you don't want to do that. Just wait till after the 10th of May. But seed, you could do it now. They'll stay in the ground for about 30 days if you plant it now. So if it comes out at 1st of May or so, it's perfect. And prepping the soil, we like to use a lot of manure, especially like goat, alpaca, anything like that. Sheep manure is the best. Cow manure is good. We don't recommend horse manure. It seems like it's real high in toxicity with the urine and stuff, so we don't really recommend horse manure. And where to buy your seeds? Well, we usually get them down, or we make our own seed from our own plants. We do all the heritage varieties, the Big Jim, the Sandia, the Joey Parker Mild, and for 2 years. After 2 years, then we buy seeds down in Hatch area. And it's you gotta be with chili with it almost every day. Look at your plants, see what it needs for bugs, for soil content in the ground, and it don't need a lot of water when it's growing. You could irrigate it if you do the flood irrigation every 3 weeks, and once it starts producing in August, you want to water it about every 10 days. But on the drip, you could just drip a little every day, and put some fertilizer if you want to put it in the drip. It does good. Certain kind. They have a lot of different fertilizers here you could use, and it's all certified organic. And just take a look at your plant, see the difference here compared to that one. This one's real yellow. It's probably overwatered. You want a color like that, real dark green. That's a healthy plant, big stem, and this has that good compost, the good soil in it. But we've always done with direct seed because it gets a stronger plant. The roots get strong, make the plant real strong than transplants. That's what we found out. Well, we have millions of plants, so you can't do that many in transplants. And this is all good stuff, and all this other for the bugs. That Monterey BT is good. But you usually don't have trouble with chili plants for bugs. Maybe as it comes out of the ground, you might, but I usually plant it pretty thick, so if I lose some through the bugs or the wind or weather, because you always get a lot of bad weather, it's usually the end of the month, every month, you have so much to choose from. So what I do is I'll plant thick, a row of it, and then we'll thin it out to have a plant like every foot like that. Because if you have it too thick, then it won't produce fruit. It'll just be pretty plants and no chili on them. So at least a foot apart. We do 40 inches center, so 40 inches across each row. Yeah, if you plant early and it doesn't do too good, you have time to plant up till about the 20th of May. On seeds, transplants, you could go into the end of June. And what I usually do on my rows too, we'll do rows and then I'll plant it and then make like a crown on it on top, maybe like 4 or 5 inch crown, and it holds the moisture in till it wants to germinate and come out. So right after it germinates, I just take off that top layer off, just scrape it off, and then you have a nice plant like this coming out with no weeds. It takes away all the weeds. Or you could do beds with plastic. My sons are getting into that. They have a machine that puts all the plastic, the seed, the water, the drip, and that works good because then you don't have any hoeing. That's the biggest labor you have, is the hoeing. And try to keep it cultivated so it aerates the ground, and you don't want that ground to get hard, especially with these high winds. It'll get it really hard, and you don't want that. It won't come out, and it won't germinate. So you want to keep it loose and keep it wet where the seeds are. And like I was saying, you don't need to water it much, maybe once every 3 weeks till it starts putting on fruit, like in the end of July. We usually cultivate about every week, every 10 days, depending on the weather. If you get rain, well, you can't, so you just wait till you could get in dry enough. You don't want to get in when the field's wet and then it compacts the soil. Then you have a hard time with the drainage. You don't have drainage on your fields, you lose the field. It'll just root rot, called wilt. Just keep checking it. You got to check your plants, your soil, the looks of the plants. Well, you could grow it different ways. You could do it in beds, above ground beds or fields. I like it right in the soil because it seems like it pulls the flavor out of the soil. That's where we get it.
Do they grow well?
Yeah, but they never do produce much. Yeah, you'll get a few pods versus half a bushel of a plant. We get plants like 3-4 feet tall, and we've gotten like probably a bushel out of a couple plants. Yeah.
Question.
You'd mentioned planting seed, and you said a crown of 5 inches. So does that mean that the seed is 5 inches?
It is. It takes a little longer to germinate, but then you don't have that weed problem. You knock off that whole crown on top, and then the moisture's still there, and it pops out with no weeds.
But if you knock the crown off, have you not chopped the top of the...
No, because you want to stay about... Well, you could... I plant like 1.5 inches deep, so I'll just take it down to where the row is. The crown's above that row. No. You just got to make sure you have them thinned, at least, a foot or so.
I have raised beds, and they're really small. I don't know a lot, but I put potting soil in it, and it had really good drainage. And I also put mulch on top of it, and I've been watering it like once a week. Do I still have to put the plants a foot apart?
Yes. So you have raised beds that
Yeah.
you have them in? Oh yeah, if you don't put them wide enough, they won't produce.
About the fact I put the mulch on
Yes. Yeah, you got to really be careful not to overwater chili. You know, then you'll get this. Then they don't produce. They
Now
just
that I
stay
see
yellow and not.
recognize it.
Yes. No, it's
So-
the varieties. Usually, well, if in a drier, hotter year, they get hotter. Like last year's real dry, no rain. They tend to be hotter, but the flavor was so much better. When it rains a lot, they get milder and they don't have the same flavor.
Okay.
So it's good that it dries out the soil.
We have some seeds here and all the different varieties. So we get this question, I feel like you guys all know this, but we get a lot of people that don't know that the green turns red, and they even sell here red chili, but it's the same seed. I think they just get people to think, oh, that's gonna grow a red chili. So you'll see the variety here is called Sandia. So this cultivar is really good for making red chili ristras. There's many different varieties of green chili. Fabian Garcia in the early 1900s developed the seed in New Mexico, southern New Mexico at the university there, and that's where they continue to develop new seeds. So it's very close to Hatch, and they have a website where you can get a lot of information too. We use the traditional varieties that started back then, but they're doing different changes and enhancing it to get more mass production. We feel the traditional ones provide a lot more flavor and what customers are accustomed to. And so that cultivar Sandia is something that we've always grown, and we use it to make our red chili ristras. So the chili takes about 120 days from when you plant it to when you start harvesting. At our U-Pick farm, we want to start in August, end of August, so we try to get it in April. And then once it starts turning red, that's the cooler nights in September is what gets it to start turning and maturing and ripening to that red chili color. So this seed we've grown, it's like a real mild, the 6'4". Have you tried rattlesnake?
Oh, that's super hot.
So if you guys want like super hot chili,
It'll burn you.
you can do these different varieties. There's Miss Junie is in here. It's a variety that is a mix between like the Big Jim medium. So it's a really big chili, but it's with like a hot flavor. So that's one of the new ones, the new like hybrid that's really popular. So yeah, and so you were saying what makes it hot is you would get like the seed that was developed. So you would get the chili that isn't so hot and kind of save that and just add the characteristics to it. But if you plant, I know he taught me this, next to each other, the mild with the extra hot next to each other, they cross-pollinate and your mild will get hot. So you don't want to do that. And then the next year, if you plant in the same place where you had extra hot, the same seeds will come up from the year before, so you don't want to do that. So you have to just be careful where you plant it to get what type that you want. And so yeah, so these are some of the seeds. I brought in this ristra here that he's selling, or I think he's giving it away, but you could actually save some the seeds. You could break these open and take the seeds out. You wouldn't want to get any of the seeds from any of your chili that's been roasted, because then they won't grow. But this would be perfectly fine. And this would be like the regular hot Sandia variety. So that's like a good way and less expensive way of saving your seeds too. And then down south, if you want like a bulk quantity, which is where we order, where you can get a lot of seeds if you had bigger areas that you wanted to grow. So she's asking, she bought a ristra last year with different colors like yellow and green, and she was wondering how you grow it or
How it was grown.
how it was grown. So that would just be the different varieties of peppers. Some of them may not be green chili. Yeah.
And some might have not been mature, so I wouldn't recommend to use those seeds, because they might have picked them immature, kind of green, and they didn't mature the seeds. So, but the red ones will, they'll be good. The red that dried like this. This is probably the most famous popular variety, the Sandia. It's hot. I just made some. They've been making it, and it's really good. Good flavor, but it's hot. You have to water it down a little,
Yeah.
or not use as much.
Joe Parker is a really mild one. They sell it by the plant and by the seed, and then this 6'4", is that what it's called?
6'4". That's about a medium.
And then Anaheim is really mild.
No flavor, like a bell pepper. You don't want.
Yeah. The Big Jim is like the next level. That's the medium, and it produces those really large chilies, the ones for rellenos. That's our most popular at the farm. And then you work your way up to the Sandia is the next level of like regular hot, and then you get into your extra hots in those varieties.
I like to water at night because it's so hot during the day. If I irrigate it during the day, it seems like it stresses the plants. Too hot, and at night it's nice and cool. In the morning, they're beautiful. So usually in the evening I water all night, and it's the best. Yeah, they do, but just don't look at them. You look at them, you want to give them water, but it's kind of good to let them stress like that, and then the taproot goes down deeper to find the moisture. Then you get a good plant, and especially if you get a lot of rains after that and it gets flooded, those plants won't die because they're deep, strong roots. Sometimes we do in July when it gets so hot, we'll lose a lot of that first crop.
With the same kind of indication?
Yeah, the plant tries to pull water out of the pods to survive because it's so hot you can't get enough water on it, so you'll get some of that.
So then if it does become a water issue, I guess.
Yeah, it'll straighten out once it cools down in August, late August, once it gets cooler, early September, but July's rough. You get 100-degree weather, and you'll get a lot of that blight.
So no thoughts about adding calcium to the soil?
Well, you could do a soil test, see if it does. There's a lot of different additives you could put to help the soil.
They have like a soil lab in Los Ranchos that does soil testing, but the person she opened a business, her name is Gabby, and I put her information actually on here if you wanted to call her. It's on the front. It says Soil Conservation and Resource Management Consultant. Her number is the 557 number. She's a really good resource and person to talk to for soil testing and a bunch of different things, and it doesn't have to be a large scale farm or anything like that. So I would highly recommend calling her for something like that. But there's other labs locally and not locally you can send your soil to. But if you wanted something like easy and ready to go, I would recommend her.
There's nothing really. I would recommend to plant flowers though. It helps with the bugs. Marigolds is excellent, yeah, on the perimeter or in between. But as far as any other, we planted all kinds of different squashes, cucumbers, melons.
She's asking other nightshades, so like eggplants, tomatoes, yeah.
That's good.
Well, those are nightshades, right?
Yeah. So I think that would be fine.
Yeah. That's another thing I wanted to touch on too. I don't know how much land you have, or you could do. You want to make sure to get on the green belt. If you have an acre or more than an acre, I think it is.
Yeah.
Plant crops like this, and you'll save 10 times less on your property tax. Get on the green belt with the county or the Sandoval or Bernalillo County. Even a vineyard. Vineyards are good too. And, but I think for varieties, stick with the traditionals. The old traditional, the Big Jim, the Sandia. All these varieties down south, they grow for tonnage. Because it's for Bueno and all the big canneries. but it don't have the flavor like the old traditionals. The mild Big Jim, Sandia extra hot. And make your seed. Just go buy a Ristra like that and you have enough for a few rows there. We usually do it like once a month, depending what the soil needs or what it looks like the plant. If you have a good healthy plant like these ones, they're doing great. You don't really need to do much, but you get these. This seemed like it just overwatered. Just cut off the water for about a week and see what it does. But I know they put a lot of fertilizer in these, a lot of compost, and then they feed it every day with the foliage feed, spray it on. But you just gotta keep an eye on your plants. Just make sure they're a dark green. They start getting yellow, then that's the time to fertilize. Oh, they'll go probably about a foot or so.
It's like around a 6 or a 7, I think.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
So a little more acid.
Yeah, we got it tested once, but that's like the average, like just the averages here, and it did really good. We're super lucky because where we were growing is literally right next to the river, so our soil was really good. So it's going to be a little bit different for y'all.
Are you above Loma Larga? Or?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's really sandy. You just got to put a lot of compost and manure and all that, because there's no nutrients in the ground. That's just sand, nothing. So you need to mix in some soil or what is it? Soil solutions that you get the compost.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it'd be fine. Do you guys sell those here?
I think it would probably be the same issue as having it in a planter, just not getting a huge production and getting a lot of chili off of it. A lot of this stuff like online is not necessarily like our climates.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of hard to gauge it. And you definitely learn a lot. And it's not like super scientific from the generation before you. And
but I think my problem was right now just listening to you is overwatering, because it was my first year and I'm like, I don't want them to die.
Yeah.
You know? So I go back every like 3 times a week just to water them, you know, but
Too much.
too much, yeah. So.
The plant tells you, you know, you could tell the difference, this one and that one. You want this one. You don't want a yellow plant that's too much water. And just hold back the water and they start looking like this, and then they'll come out of that water log or whatever. It's hard to find the old heritage seeds, the old varieties. A lot of the pueblos, they keep saving them. It's kind of that, it's not big chili, it's kind of that or even smaller. Chimayo or the native extra hot Española variety was. That's the best flavor of them. These other hybrids and Arizona varieties, I don't like them. They produce a lot of tonnage, but the flavor's not there. They're real thick. They'll have some hot varieties, but they still don't have the flavor of the Big Jim or the Sandia.
Hatch versus Lematar, I know it's a big debate, and people go to certain areas, you know, just for certain chili, and some people do go up north for Chimayo. What is your experience?
We have a farm in Socorro close to Lematar. I think that's the best. Here, this valley's good here too. But Hatch, you don't know if it's from Hatch. They bring it in from Mexico and they raise it for high production for tonnage. And you can't find the old traditional varieties anymore in Hatch. It's all numbered. They all have numbers. I don't know if it's GMO or what it is, what kind of chili, but it's not. You can't find the traditional Sandia or Big Jim. Some of them are raised because you need the Sandia for Ristras. Those big thick ones, they'll rot when you put them on a string. So you want the real thin skin. That's a bad word. Colorado chili. No, I don't know. I haven't tried it, but it's hard to say. I think it's more the climate, the dry weather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
where you want it to dry out the soil. That's where it pulls the flavor out of the ground.
But if our information is on that one, and I can get you the person where to buy them from. Yeah.
Or she could get you some, because I'll be getting like 50 pounds here next week. So, how do you water it? Do you use sprinklers, or do you do it like the drip system, or on the hose? Yeah, just down to where the root is. Just get it wet there. But I wouldn't recommend more than at least once a week or every 2 weeks. I'd go 3 weeks on mine, but like I was telling you, I put a big row with a crown so it holds the moisture. I only water it one time in that whole month. Then when I take that crown off, I'll water it and it pops out.
So she's asking in July if the same watering schedule would be followed.
You have to just give it a good soaking, like about every 8 to 10 days. Yeah, that's really good to hold the moisture in. Any kind of mulch, compost is good. It holds the moisture in.
She's asking for pecan mulch.
Pecan mulch. I've never seen anyone use it. I don't know. Every 40 inches. Yeah, and we soak it up, get it wet.
So
The whole row.
Is in the middle of
Yes.
40 inches, 20 inches on
Yes.
the side from the. Oh, that's very helpful. Thank you.
So actually, I was doing some research because the property owner wanted us to have flat area to grow because he didn't want to disturb the soil. But for chili, you actually need to elevate it and have a row, because then you will develop that root rot. And so it's best to have like a mound. And then that's how your water would pass through also, and that's how it passes through for our irrigation. So definitely something to recommend. You don't want to just have it on a flat surface. Even though you have to, get the soil, but also disturbing the soil is also going to, aerate it, and you don't want it compacted, and you're not going to get anything to grow like that,
Well, I'd say at least 8 to 10 inches, get all that topsoil. What is it further down? Is it all clay, or does it go to sand? It's clay. Yeah, at least 10 inches or so. Or mix it. You can mix it with some sandy soil with it. But that clay, it just don't drain, and for chili, you need good drainage.
And then you would, with the drip, you have it on top next to your plant, and that's totally fine. That's what the big farmers do down south that have drip. So you would just place it next to it. The flood is nice because it keeps it really moist for a longer time, and it gets like that whole area so the roots can go further out. But you would also get a lot of weeding that you would have to do.
Actually, the big farmers down south, they do drip irrigation under the ground. So say you plant 2 inches, they have the drip about 4 inches under the ground, and it just wets it under. And the ground's on top's all dry, no weeds. Well, it's let's say like every week, you just want to keep it wet. Don't let it dry out, because it'll swell the seed, and then it'll dry up. It won't germinate. So just check your moisture. Just go in there and check it to see if it's wet where the seed is, till it germinates and pops out of the ground. But make sure you soak it. You let it run all night real slow, and make sure the row gets wet all the way to the top. Because if it don't get wet, you're not going to germinate your seed. So you need to keep it, just the slow watering's good.
But when he waters, everything is wet. It's completely soaked.
Yeah.
It's flooded, like covered. Yeah. Yeah. Even though it's 20 inches, the water is so much that it goes the whole area. Yeah.
I recommend the drip irrigation the best, because you could adjust it, timers or whatever, and just enough water. This flood it's kind of a thing of the past. Too much water, and especially in a drought now, we don't have the water. So the drip, you're probably a fourth or a third of what flood irrigation of water usage.
Thank you.
Just get some drip lines. You could go above the ground, just about every foot or so. 2 or 3 seeds about every foot, and save water. But you gotta be with it. This chili's tough. There's so much stuff you have to look for. I've had chili come out the 20th of April, pretty, and I water it, and then it won't freeze because it's so close to the ground, to the moisture, and then you start harvesting in July.
How old do you think this is?
Let's see, probably 30 days.
So this is like
Yeah.
from seed to coming out
To
like a month
seedling.
is what you'll look at.
Yeah, to that size. 30 days. So you could do it now, planting these now, and by the first week of May, they'll be ready to plant. Like this one, you could, but we're still gonna have a lot of freeze for another month. So you'd lose it unless you cover it. But be a lot of depending on how many plants you're gonna plant, but you could cover them. Then you'll be fine. So if you want a lot of seed, these just have 20 seeds, or they don't have much.
Yeah.
How many seeds in one spot?
Well, at least 3 or 4, then you could always thin them. I plant them in a row, so every foot probably has 100 seeds. But then we thin them out. I planted heavy just for bugs, wind, weather. Then we go out and thin them. We'll get the pretty plants, take the ugly ones out.
So you leave the pretty plants in.
Yeah. So. But oh yeah, I'm gonna plant this week. So they'll stay in the ground till probably this 3 weeks, and then they'll germinate and come out. And by then, if you keep the ground wet, they won't freeze. You'll have early chili by the end of July, early August if you plant now. We plant a lot of different, about 3 or 4 different stages. So we'll plant now, the end of April, early May, end of May, so they don't all mature at the same time.
How many pickings do you get?
You get 2 or 3 pickings, but usually the first picking will be on the bottom of the plant, second will be higher up. But we plant early because we want to have red chili early by the 2nd week of September, and then the later plantings will be green in September, October. Because you plant it all at once now, then you'll have all red in September. You won't have green. So we stage it or whatever every 2 weeks. All right. Well, thank you. If you have any questions, you can always call us. Big Jim Farms. Chantel's always answers, and if you need seeds, we'll have a lot of seed.